And we are continuing. Yes, when Mr. President gave that order, of course, it was because he declared emergency in a way, in quotes, for that period. And once such emergency is declared, of course, the ministry, because don't forget, that happened after the flooding. And we knew that as a result of the flooding that happened last year, our road infrastructure was devastated. A number of bridges and bus culverts around the country collapsed, and we needed money to fix them. So the president gave that marching order and also supported with some funds, and that was why we were able to replace most of those collapsed bridges, like on Katsina-Kano Road, where we constructed 2 new bridges. We used them to replace the 2 bus culverts that collapsed. In Plateau State, we had about 3 of them. In Lokoja, our arterial route A2 that was cut off at Banda area in Kogi State, we were able to recover that section. And just across the country, we were able to do that from Ilorin to Jeba, Jeba to Mokwa, Mokwa to Tegina, and up to Kaduna, Kaduna to Katsina. We were able to intervene from Kefi here to Makurdi. We were able to intervene from Makurdi to Aliade, Aliade to Tukbo, and Tukbo to Nightmare. Up to Enugu, we intervened. Lagos-Ibadan Road, we intervened during the period. In fact, on all our major arterial roads, we were able to intervene. And again, like I said, it was as a result of these 2 programs that just meshed together at that point in time. So speed was of essence. Even in areas we saw that FEMA had limitations, like from Kefi to Makurdi and from Enugu to Port Harcourt, the ministry intervened. Like from Enugu to Port Harcourt, the ministry brought in the 3 majors, Julius Berger, Nigeria, PLC. We put in the most devastated section in Abia State. We brought in Cetraco from Enugu to that section, and we put ROCC from where Julius Berger stopped all the way to Port Harcourt. So that was why within 6 weeks, at least we made that road motorable. That was why Nigerians were able to drive through our arterial roads during the end of year festivities.
Now, we're talking about budgetary provisions, Honorable Minister. There's this whole controversy about the National Assembly allocating funds to what are regarded as non-priority roads, maybe for political reasons and all of that. How is that affecting your ministry's management of Nigerian roads?
Well, the inadequate budgetary provision of the Ministry of Work is beyond what you have just described. Because if, like you said, our average budgetary provision is about 150 billion naira, if you match that against what we truly need to drive Nigeria roads to the level we want to put it or bring it to, you discover we still have a gap of about 450 billion. We need about 600 billion naira in order to really drive road development program in this country. Because if we truly want to be one of the 20 leading world economies by the year 2020, we need to be constructing 14,000 kilometers of additional road every year. And we need to continue maintaining the existing ones. That is what we truly need to do. And 150 billion naira clearly cannot do that work. So that is why we are looking outside the budgetary envelope to try to see how we can amass funds. But thank goodness, like from last year, the ministry enjoyed about 85 billion naira funding from the Shopee, and this year it has gone up to over 100 billion naira. These are positive signals, but despite all that, we still need to look for ways to up the budgetary provision for the ministry.
Let me just quickly cut in here because I'm quite interested in this. You mentioned the China Exim Bank,
yes.
That's the China Export-Import Bank. What modalities are you doing, or are you sourcing from them? Because we know nothing goes for nothing, you know. So tell us the rudiments of that with the China Exim Bank.
It's something that is being organized by the coordinating Minister of the Economy and the Honorable Minister of Finance. Because as a ministry on our own, we can't go to China as a bank. So as a country, we can go there. And we have a basket of projects which include road development. For all the road I've mentioned is our preferred road to devote those resources to. Of course, we have the Abuja Light Rail for the rail program, and of course the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. And every sector have their priority projects and programs, just like the Zungeru Power Project, you know, from the power side and all of that. But it is something that is being coordinated by the coordinating minister of the economy, and we are all in it together, and we hope that that will also give some reprieve to us. In fact, if you look at the preview a while ago, you saw that it was alluded to that Nigeria had enough road network between 1981 and 1983 as a result of the effort that was put in between 1981 and 1983. Now ask yourself the question, at the end of that particular experiment, our road stock already grew to almost 30,000 kilometers of road network. But how many cars and vehicles were plying Nigeria roads at the time? It were no more than 150,000. Go and check the statistics. But today, how many vehicles are plying our roads? They are in excess of 9 million. Today, those days, tankers were not found on the road because the petroleum pipelines were working. The rail lines were functional. But today, not only that the petroleum pipelines are no longer working, every bit of petroleum product is now being moved on our road. Today, the rail lines are also in comatose. It's only now that they are being revived. So for these past decades of years, everything came to the road. So it became uncontrollable. We were no longer able to control axle loading on our road, and the pressure increased, and that also led to the quick collapse of the road. It is not all collapse of roads sometimes that are as a result of poor quality work. No, it's the axle loading. Our roads are designed to take axle load of not more than 40 tons, but we have 80 tons vehicles on our roads.
So what do you do to curtail that?
Well, we have a policy. We now have a policy to curtail that. As far back as 2011, we started deploying weight bridges on most of our arterial roads. It's not as if we've never had them. We had them, but because of politics, in 1983 they were abandoned. Under the Shagari administration, they were abolished. Then, of course, even when we started deploying weight bridges across our road, we were now confronted with some logistic problems. When we had the toll plazas in place, it was easy to bring trucks to a slow stop, and they are directed to their lane where they are weighed, and you control axle loading through that. Again, as a result of policy somersault, government of the days some years ago, again, not only abrogated toll gate, they also demolished those structures that would have helped us, not just to control axle loading on our road, to even for security purposes, to ensure that, I mean, it would have been possible to have scanners in all the plazas, and whatever vehicle is coming, particularly those with arms, they would have been able to check them. But we've lost all that. So this is the problem. Is government considering bringing that back? It's a hydra-headed problem. Today, government have a lot of reason to want to bring back those kind of plazas, not just for tolling purposes, but for what I have said. If we don't have such an infrastructure, we truly cannot control axle loading on our road. I mean, recently I listened to a judgment, a court in Enugu sentencing a tanker driver to the hangman just because he overran a road safety personnel. Try to stop this truck. See their behavior. They can overrun you. But if you have such plazas, everybody knows they have to come to a stop. And you look. Let me tell you what is going on. If articulated trucks are coming into Nigeria at Semen border, by the time they get to Semen border, because of the success in controlling axle loading in their countries, they aggregate articles in about 3 trucks and they are loaded onto one truck because they are not going on Nigeria roads. And it is only in our country we do not have a user charge like the International Vehicle Transit Charge that is being charged in all of West African countries. So these are the issues, but we are looking at them, and I'm sure that with the new template we have, very soon we'll be in a position to be able to put the infrastructure in place and now start controlling axle load on our road.
Honorable Minister, I quite agree with you that the Shopee has intervened in several number of federal government projects. But then what were factors considered in deciding which project should enjoy Shopee's intervention? And then I believe Nigeria will also want to know what is happening or what has happened to funds already appropriated to some of those projects, having in mind most of those projects were ongoing before Shopee even came on board?
Well, thank you very much. In terms of which projects Shopee funds have been devoted to, I stated them clearly just now, and what informed that decision was that the government was determined to really select a few major arterial routes that truly contribute to economic activities in our country and bring them to quick completion. And for us, we could not have made a better selection than taking on the 4 dual carriageway project that started under the regime of our former president Olusegun Obasanjo, which is the dualization of some of our arterial routes, because in this country we have 3 major north-south arterial routes. The route A1, which starts from Lagos through Ibadan to Ilorin to Jebba, Monkwa, Kaduna, up to the borders. Then route A2, which starts from Warri Port through Benin, Auchi, Okere, Lokoja, Abuja, Kaduna to Kongoloma. Then the route A3, which starts from Port Harcourt all the way through Abia, Aba, all the way to Makurdi and up to the northeast. So we had ongoing projects that were bedeviled by poor funding at the time. You are all aware that, for instance, the Abuja-Lokoja road was in comatose. In fact, it was the 4 sections on that road which were awarded to 4 different contractors were virtually abandoned. Only 1 or 2 sections was just going on at snail speed. Because what happened over the years, we now find out that what contractors were doing, if they look at a budget, the provision you have for them, let's say it's 500 million naira. By the time they do job up to that point, they stop. And they start waiting again because of inadequate budgetary provision. In fact, on this particular road, Abuja to Lokoja, there were years when there was no single budgetary appropriation for them. So the road was taking forever to finish. So in his wisdom, the federal government under President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan decided to focus on these major routes, because they are major routes. Some of them are actually part of Trans-African Highway, passing through Nigeria, and we needed to put them in order. And again, we chose to do the second Niger bridge from the proceeds of Shopee as well as the local Weto bridge, because we knew we needed new bridges across the 2 great rivers that define our country, the River Niger and the River Benue. Like I said, the existing bridge at Onitsha was constructed over 40 years ago. And as a result of a lot of ecological problems around the bridge, with the dredging of the River Niger, the river is veering off course and it's affecting the piers of the bridge. We have carried out a number of studies, and we know that although we are maintaining it, we will not be able to continue to sustain it beyond the economic life of the bridge. So we needed to build a new bridge before we have a calamity in our hands. Then, of course, the local Weto bridge will also serve as an alternative route for southward bound traffic from the north and vice versa, because sometimes it is impossible to, at the time, to go through the Abuja-Lokoja road. So if that one is completed, the kind of agony that road users face on Abuja-Lokoja road, particularly when there is a blockade, will be a thing of the past, because we've already completed the Nasarawa-Abaji road, and that will now serve as a link between these 2 alignments. So if there's a problem here, you can connect the local bridge through Abaji-Nasarawa road, and you get to local in Nasarawa state. So these were strategic decisions at the time. And of course, the Benin-Ore-Shagamu road is part of the Trans-Africa Highway, which connects the Lagos seaport with the seaport in Mombasa in Kenya, passing through Cameroon and Central African Republic. So every country is expected to develop its own stretch of that way. And that is, in fact, that particular alignment is where the World Bank and the African Development Bank have selected projects. The Abakaliki-Ogoja, the Ogoja to Umbok, the Abakaliki to Umbok, Enunga Abakaliki, then Abakaliki to Umbok at Ogoja Junction, then the Ogoja Junction to Ikom, and Ikom to Umfom in the border town with the Cameroons. And part of the day is also construct a new bridge across the Cross River. So these are strategic selections that were made by government. And I tell you, this road truly carry most of the highest average daily traffic on our road. So it is not misplaced at all. It was taken as a result of economic reason. The decision was taken as a result of economic reason.
People want to know how long it will take to dualize the Abuja-Lokoja road. That project has been on for years. And what is the status of the east-west road?
Well, the Abuja-Lokoja road, I want to assure concerned Nigerians that the Abuja-Lokoja road clearly will be commissioned next year as a result of the enhanced funding the road is enjoying. And we are monitoring every session of the 4-session road project. And we are looking at what the contractors are doing. We are projected that we should be able to commission that road anytime from the end of the first quarter of next year, based on the information we have. Then, of course, on the other issues, like you raised the east-west road, it's also one of the roads that this administration has prioritized. But the road is not within the purview of Federal Ministry of Works. Yes, the road was originally owned by the Federal Ministry of Works, but in the wisdom of our late President, Umaru Yar'Adua, that road was transferred to the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, which was created under his regime. And that road, construction activities on that road is being scaled up. And I also want to assure that by the end of next year, that road again will also be commissioned based on the work program.
Okay, Honorable Minister, let's take you back a bit because the issue of funding is still key. And I picked up what you said, that you're a project manager. We know what project managers do, so you are a professional person. When it comes to the issue of funding, you said at the ministerial platform that I think it took about 120 billion naira from 2011 to complete about a 2 road project. Yeah. How would you ensure a prudent use of the money you have? Because we know, even as a project manager, that's what you're taught to do. That is one. The other thing is, how do you effectively monitor that even a contractor, you give him, for example, 500 million, and after that 500 million he goes, how would you ensure that that 500 million is well utilized? And what I'm trying to say, in essence, is corruption in the sector. And is it also true that you engage outside consultants to do costing materials and all of that? Tell us the extent and what your staff actually do.
Well, as a project manager, you are right, and as Minister of Works, I should know. In terms of prioritization we have embarked upon, we are allocating most of our resources. If you look at our budgeted trend since we came on board, at least 80% of our resources are devoted to those key projects we want to drive to completion. That is why you will see on most of our arterial routes, for each session, we are budgeting between 2.5 billion naira to 3 billion naira for each session. For instance, on Abuja Lokoja Road, if you budget 2.5 billion for each session, that will aggregate to about 10 billion. And we know that from the Federal Ministry of Works, we are contributing 10 billion. Then from what we are getting from the Shopee, maybe for a particular year, depending on the year, the Shopee have about, for purpose of this explanation, about 5 billion per session. That aggregates to about 20 billion. Then add that to what the Ministry of Works is giving, you are having about 30 billion being put for that road in order to drive it aggressively to completion. Because when there is fund for a road, you see the contractors in action. Many of them truly have the capacity, but they'll be limited by the poor funding. Then in terms of cutting of corners, yes, we actually engage consultants in Nigeria. We hardly engage consultants outside the country, except when we are doing public-private partnership projects, and we are certainly for such projects, we bring it in line with international best practice. They are advertised in local and international papers, and external consultants could bid, and if they are lucky and they win the bid, you just have to declare them, because if the processes are not transparent, then you can be sure no investor will want to come and invest in infrastructure development in your country. In terms of cutting corners, I have heard this repeatedly, but I must say something. Since I came on board as Minister of Works, we have taken measures to stop that particular ugly incident. One of the things we did, when we restructured the ministry and we created zonal directorate, immediately we set up independent ministerial monitoring team for each of the zone to actually go to project site independently, verify what is on, and report directly to my office. And these are not civil servants. They are top-rated Nigerian engineers who have been in practice for a long time. Some of them had even retired, but they are offering this service to us. And I must tell you, their input for me have constituted the most reliable input in our road management since I came on board. And instances of cutting corners is difficult for it to happen today at the Federal Ministry of Work. Even when you hear of, recently you hear about talk about people, quality of work not in accordance with what was in the contract, go and check all of them. There were contracts that were awarded 2009 or before 2009, 2010. When the House of Representatives went to the Southeast, the only project they commended in Abakaliki Afikpo was the project we drafted a new contractor to. And don't forget, the new materials of the new Department of Materials, Geotechnics and Quality Assurance that were created, they have an ombudsman role in road projects. So if there is a certificate on my table without the concurrence of that department, I don't approve it, because they have a responsibility to ensure that the work that is being done and is being certified, that it meets with all the standards. That quality assurance, it is just to provide it. So these are some of the new measures we have put in to at least check that particular incident. But where there could be deviations, but anytime we notice any deviation, we come heavily on whoever is involved. And in that direction, I recall that sometime in 2012, I had cause to recall one of the Southeastern State Controller of Work as a result of an issue like this to face a disciplinary committee in the Federal Ministry of Works.
So why is it impossible for the ministry, for instance, to set up a construction company rather than giving all the construction jobs to foreigners?
Well, to start with, all our construction jobs are not given to foreigners, and it is not part of the mandate of the Federal Ministry of Work to go into contracting. What we have done, it is only FEMA we have tried to develop and equip so that they can intervene in that particular state, because since we came on board, we have acquired state-of-the-art pothole patchers, the FP5. There are about 38 or 42 of them.
So each state has one?
Each state has one, and major alignments we have them. So there's no reason why such things should happen. And I'm aware that on the patchers, there are telephone numbers written on them for people to call in case there is such a thing in their area. So I think that is a question of is an operational issue. But FEMA, as it is today, have been adequately equipped. Already, we have 2 asphalt plants functioning for FEMA, one in Lagos, which has been installed, the other one in Kuje. We have about 3 others to follow quickly, and yet another 2 to meet the needs of road maintenance in each of the 6 geopolitical zones.
Ismail, very quickly.
Happened to be a critical challenge of the ministry, but yet the 5% user charge as specified by the Act establishing FEMA is yet to see the limelight. And then some states are yet to establish their road maintenance agency. Why?
Well, about the 5% fuel tax, yes, that mechanism was introduced in the Amendment Act of FEMA in 2005, and the purpose is for that money to be put together, 40% of which will go to FEMA to pursue its road development program, while 60% will be shared among the 36 states, but with a proviso they must have a state road maintenance agency. As early as 2011, I invited all the state commissioners of work, and we had a workshop in Abuja here, and I drove home the point that they needed to establish a state road maintenance agency. As at the last plan, I'm aware that over 30 states now have that agency in place. Unfortunately, what had happened at the beginning of 2012, we had made, even the executive had approved for following the plan through the regulation for that 5% surcharge to now be debited as source, which would have been shared by FEMA and the state road maintenance agencies. Unfortunately, the regulation did not go the full hog, and that 5% fuel tax, which was part of the template that was worked out, we could not start implementation at the time because of obvious reasons what happened in January 2012. But we believe that going forward, we need to revisit it. There's no reason why we cannot start implementing it now, because whatever the price of petroleum product, it is easy to compute what 5% will amount to. And the appropriate authority like the PPPROA should begin to pay such funds to Fairman's account. But again, when the road fund comes on board or comes on stream, it will actually be the appropriate recipient.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We've been engaging with the Honorable Minister of Works in Nigeria, Mike Oziegbe Onolememen. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. Bye for now.